Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be reviewing all of the products that are offered by the luxury makeup product company Westman Atelier. Now Westman Atelier is a company that offers all clean makeup products, but they are pretty expensive. But fortunately right now for the next couple of days, the company Violet Grey is going to be offering about a 20%, a little more than a 20% discount on all of the products from Westman Atelier. So I thought this would be a good time to talk about the brand and to show you all of the products that I have. In addition, Westman Atelier has recently introduced a new eyeliner pencil and a new skin serum, and so I'll be discussing both of those products. And usually in my real life, I spend only about 5 minutes putting on my makeup in the morning, and so I thought what I would do in this video is to show you 3 different really fast looks using just a few Westman Atelier products so that you can get a sense of how easy it is to use this particular line of makeup. So thank you very much for joining me. So Westman Atelier is a brand that was started by a makeup artist named Gucci Westman. And there's no connection at all to the fashion and makeup house of Gucci. Rather, Gucci Westman was actually born in California. She moved to Sweden and lived in an ashram most of the time. But her ashram name was something like Gushuron, and she was always called Gucci as a nickname, and then when she was 9 years old, she officially had her name changed to Gucci. So Gucci Westman has been known for many years for doing the makeup for many different celebrities, and she does makeup both for covers of Vogue or other popular magazines, Vanity Fair, and then she's also done some runway model work. And she's known especially for giving people a kind of an ethereal, pretty, not too made up, somewhat natural, but really kind of lovely makeup look. And then she also started as the artistic director for Lancome and then for Revlon before starting her own makeup brand in 2018. Gucci Westman's 51 years old, and she seems to be especially good friends with a number of celebrities, and I can kind of see why all of those people like her a lot. I think that she seems like a quite nice person, at least from what I can tell, and that she seems like she's very sincere. So Gucci Westman has rosacea herself, and I think she's seen a lot of other clients who have had skin issues, and so she became interested in creating a line of products that would have pretty much mostly natural ingredients and ingredients that had good skincare ingredients in them and that would be good for her skin and for her clients' skin. And I personally do think that Westman Atelier is one of the few brands that I have used where I have never experienced any irritation as a result of using the products. In addition, I think that people that are looking for a really snatched type of makeup look that will last all day for them or give them a really high made up, dramatic type of a look, that might not be the right line for them. But for people who are looking for a more natural look that just adds some prettiness to the face and makes them look nice, and maybe especially for people who are getting a little bit older, this could be a really good line to consider. Now, another thing to know about this makeup line is that their prices are really quite high. And a lot of that reason may be because they're using a lot of pretty high quality oils and other ingredients that are on the costly side. But I do think an awfully lot of the reason for the high price is because their containers are especially nice. And I do think that if you're looking for a brand that has really lovely containers that you can display or take with you and feel that you're being really elegant when you put on the makeup, then this could be a great brand for you because they are lovely containers. But for me, I'm much more interested in the quality of the products themselves. And I feel that for most of these products, I've been paying a lot of extra money just for the containers. Now, that wouldn't be quite so annoying to me if I felt like they were refillable containers and that I was just paying for them once. And then after that, I could get less expensive refills. But in this case, so far, until very recently, they haven't had any refillables at all. And apparently the reason for this is because this brand brand was originally being sold just at Barney's, and the people from Barney's told Gucci Westman that their customers were not interested in refillables at all. Now, Barney's is out of business now, so apparently they didn't have a very good sense of what their customers actually did want. And since then, Gucci Westman has been working really hard, apparently, to put everything in refillables. So to start out with, for instance, these lip products, which is a little compact with 4 different shades of lipstick in it. This product is like $85, so it's very, very expensive, but the refills are only like $50. So I do feel that the reason that I've been paying so much money for this is because $35 of that money has been going towards this compact. So I'm a little bit more likely to buy this product now that I can get a refill for it, and hopefully that will be happening with many of their other products as well. So let's start out by putting on the kind of makeup look that I wear pretty much almost every day in the summer. And I will go ahead and put that on really fast so that it's real time, so you can see just how fast that I actually do this. And then afterwards I will talk a little bit more in depth about all of the products that I use. So first of all, as a sort of a primer and to give myself a little bit of hydration without any oil in it, I'm going to put on the Westman Atelier Skin Activator, which is new. And then in the summer, because I'm outside and I may be sweating, I tend to use some kind of a powder that has a little bit of cornstarch in it, because that actually helps to absorb the sweat and keep my face from feeling as uncomfortable. For this one, I'm going to use the Beauty Counter powder, which has cornstarch in it. So I'll just put a little layer of this on top of this. And then, especially since it's starting to be the middle of summer, I feel like my face looks pretty pale, and it also looks a little bit red from the heat. So I'm going to put on a little bit of this Westman Atelier Beauty Butter Bronzer in the shade Coup de Soleil. And I'm putting this across my face, focusing on the top half of my face, and not putting a lot in this area because I don't want it to look like makeup per se. And then I put a little bit on my neck because my neck tends to be lighter than the rest of my face, and also because it kind of draws attention away from any kind of fleshiness that I have under my chin. And if I just kind of brush this over my entire top half of my face, then it starts to look like I have a tan, but it's more of a kind of a natural tan. Now, the other thing that I always do is I always put on something on my eyebrows because otherwise they're almost invisible, and I also put a little bit of something under my eyes because I do tend to have dark circles. This is the Jones Road brow pencil in the shade Ash, and I'm doing this mostly because it just goes on super fast and I don't have to put any effort into it. And in most cases, if I'm using any other kind of eyebrow pencil, then I have to also use an eyebrow gel. But with this one, I feel like it looks passably good just with this particular pencil, so I'm very fond of it. And then this is a color corrector that I'm going to put under my eyes just to take care of my dark circles. So this is another one of my very favorite makeup products, which is the Jones Road Face Pencil, and the shade number 6, which is kind of a peachy shade. And I think that my face is in reasonably good shape right now. So with the bronzer on my face, I feel like it calms down the redness a little bit, and I'm not seeing any other areas that are really problematic. So I'm going to skip putting anything else on the rest of my face for today. But if I had any kind of blemishes or areas that I think were really problematic, then I would use one of these pencils or some other kind of concealer to touch that up as well. So now my face is a little bit darker, which I think is appropriate for the summer, but it's a little bit on the flat looking side, so I want to add a little bit of highlight to that to add a little bit of interest and healthiness in terms of the glow. So for this, I'm going to use another one of my very favorite makeup products, which is called the Westman Atelier SuperLoaded Tinted Highlighter. And this is a rather expensive product that I really like nonetheless, and I have 2 shades in it. So I thought that what I would do is try one of the shades on each of my cheeks to start out with so you can maybe see what the difference is, and then I'll go ahead and fix it all up. So the first one that I have is the makeup product that I use very, very frequently, which is in the shade Peau de Peche. So I will put this on this cheek, and it gives kind of just a very kind of refined glow. And it looks like this in the container. And then on this cheek, I will use the shade Peau de Soleil. And it is a much more kind of bright, coppery gold shade. And it's pretty shiny, but let's just try a little bit on and see what it looks like. So that's much more shimmery. And I kind of feel like, for me, the peach shade is a better shade, but I think that this one also, it does give a summery type of a look, and for many people it might be better, but I'm going to try now both shades on both sides just because, to even things out. And I'll try a little bit of the gold color on this cheek. And that's maybe a little bit more bronzy than I would have liked because I put on twice as much of it. So I'll put on just a little bit more powder just to take down that shine. And then a lot of times I don't like to put on mascara. It's a little bit annoying to me, but I will put on a little bit of eye pencil. So this is a new eye pencil from Westman Atelier, and I have this in the shade Khol Brun. So I will put a little bit of that on. So this just gives a little bit of dimension and accentuation to my eyes without needing to be wearing mascara. And then I have another highlighter of a different kind from Westman Atelier, so I'll just show you that and you can see if you think there's a big difference. This one is the lit up highlight stick in the shade Brulee, so I'll just use this as I would a blush. It has a little bit of brown to it, and it's got a kind of a glassy look to it, but it's not too overdone. So I'll just put a little bit of that on and skip the blush entirely. And then I have a lip gloss from Westman Atelier. This is a squeaky clean liquid lip balm, and I have this in the shade Garconne, so I'll just put a little bit of that on. And that would be it for me for most days in the summer. I do like this look, and part of the reason is because I think that in the summer, if I put on foundation, that it usually mixes with the sweat on my face and then it kind of turns into a mess. So in this case, I took down the reddishness on my face and whatever unevenness I might have in terms of complexion with the powder, and then with that powder bronzer. So I think that without using any foundation on my face, that I do have an improved look that I think is more attractive, and that kind of can carry me through a hot summer day without it feeling like my makeup is like turning into a big yucky mess. So this particular product from Westman Atelier is a perfectly matte bronzer, and it has a few skincare ingredients in it. It's in this quite expensive container, and so therefore it's priced at a price that's, I think, is really more high than the formula itself deserves. I think this is an okay color for me. It's kind of a terracotta color, and I think it probably would work reasonably well for most people, and it does work reasonably well for me. I think an ideal bronzer for me would be just a tiny little bit more peach colored than this, but it does seem to look okay on my face in terms of looking similar to what my face would actually look if it were more tanned. I've had this particular bronzer for about a year, and I feel that it's the texture of it has changed, and that it's now a lot harder. It's almost like it has hard pan, but it does still pick up on my finger. So, and you can still see a lot of it on my hand. So it's definitely still working. $75 is a lot of money, and I think there's a lot of other bronzers on the market that are just as good. I'm especially fond of the House Labs one, and I'll be doing another full video on powder bronzers very shortly, so you might want to look at that for some other options as well. Now the SuperLoaded tinted highlighters, I'm a really big fan of these. I'm really surprised at how much I like them. And I think that if I were to pick out maybe 5 makeup products that I was going to be using solely and not using anything else, one of these would be among those. There are actually 4 shades in this that are available, but I've been told that the other 2 are a little bit more glittery, so I'm a little bit interested in using those, but I haven't purchased them yet because they are so expensive. One of them is available only on the Westman Atelier site and the Goop site. So that is the shade Peau de Santé, which is a kind of a peachy pink shade with a little bit of glitter in it. And then there's one that's called Peau de Rosé, which is a pink shade, which I think might probably be less appropriate for my skin, although it would be fun to give it a try. I think that these are also appropriate to use on the eye area. And so I will put a little bit of this gold one on my eyes. I think that would be a nice thing to do, especially for the summer. I think this one might actually work better on my eyes in terms of the gold than it does on my cheeks, and that the pink ones look better on my cheeks because they're a little bit more like my natural color. So it really depends on what kind of an effect you're trying to get. Now in terms of these highlight sticks, these are more of a glassy type highlighter, so they're almost transparent, but they kind of have a little bit of a shiny type of look to them, and they're slightly hydrating. There are 3 shades, and I will see if you can see them here on the monitor. The one that's on the top is the shade Lit Up, I think. So this is one that's looks white in the pan, and it looks almost translucent on the face. And this one has just a little bit of a pinkish, purplish type of an undertone to it. So I don't feel like this is as appropriate for my skin, and I haven't actually purchased a whole version of this. This is just a little sample, but it's something that probably anyone could wear. The one in the middle I like as just a general highlight, and this is the shade Nectar, and it has just a little bit of a peachiness to it. I do think that that's very pretty. And then the one at the bottom is the one that I just put on my face, and that is in the shade Brulee, and it definitely has a kind of a brownish, reddish type of a color that I think adds a nice look to the face that's a little bit gives a little bit of a blush look, but nothing that's too dramatic, and that makes it look a little bit on the more summery side. So I've had this version in the Brulee color in this large size for quite a while, and it's held up really well for me. And I purchased this really because that's what Gucci Westman was using in her videos, and I really do like it. It's just a general bronzing highlighter for me to use during the summer where I don't feel like I need to use a blush. Now, on the other hand, I do really like this Nectar version, but I only have it in this little container, and I actually have 2 of these because the first one that I got was working fine for me last winter, and then I happened to bring it outside in the cold, like maybe 20 degrees Fahrenheit, and almost immediately, I only brought it outside for about 5 minutes, and almost immediately it kind of turned into a big mess. So it just turned into like a creamy, sticky type of a consistency, and it never really regained its ability to hold together like a stick. So I've still used it, and it still seems to be working perfectly fine, but I feel like that's probably just due to the fact that they're not using very many synthetics in these sticks. So I would try to keep it outside of the really cold weather if you can. And then the tinted liquid lip balms, I have 3 colors of this. So the one at the top is Nana, and that one is a very neutral shade that I really can hardly see on my lips at all. So I use that primarily in combination with a matte lipstick so that I can make it look a little bit more glossy. And the one in the middle is the one that I just put on, which is Garconne, and that one I really, really like a lot. I think that gives some pretty color to my lips. And then the one at the bottom is my Puce, which is more of a raspberry color. And I do think that they're very good for my lips. They feel good on my lips. They do have a little bit of fragrance in it, but it's natural fragrance, and I can barely taste it at all, and I tend to be really sensitive to that kind of thing. So let me put on just a little bit more of that Garconne shade. So I do feel that one thing that I really like about the Westman Atelier products is that they're so kind of refined that it makes me feel like I have a pretty and kind of elegant look without needing to put on very much makeup at all. So now let's do another makeup look that's less about spending time outside in the sun during the summer and more like an ordinary makeup look that I would maybe wear during the rest of the year. So again, I will put on a little bit more of that Skin Activator as kind of a primer. And then like before, I will use my same Jones Road pencils as a color corrector and for my eyebrows. So I'll just put a little bit of this on the dark circles. And then just blend this in a bit with my finger. And then fill in my eyebrows super fast. And then next I'm going to use the Westman Atelier foundation stick, and I will just go over whatever reddish areas I see on my face and try to fill them in. Now, one thing that Gucci Westman suggests is using this teeny tiny little bitty brush to go over like tiny little areas. So if you have an area that's like a blemish or an age spot or something like that that you want to cover up and you want to make it look like you're pretty much not wearing any makeup at all, then this little brush can help you to really pinpoint it. So I can try to do that, but I will tell you, I seem to have less problems with blemishes and age spots and more issues with overall redness. So I feel like for me, when I use a product like this, that I do better if I go more broadly and then brush it on with a buffing type of a brush. So in this case, when I look in the screen here, I see that there's a good bit of redness on my face from the heat and some unevenness of texture. So I'm going to take a little bit of this foundation stick and just put it on top of these areas, sort of like I would a liquid foundation, but a little bit more like spot coverage. So I'm not trying to make my whole face look even. I'm just trying to remove some of the obvious redness that I see. And I think that for me, this cream formula works really nicely as long as I keep it away from my eye area. So I have a brush called the Everything brush from Jones Road, which I use kind of as a buffing brush. So I will take this and just kind of pat it and rub it in so that the foundation looks more even on my skin. And then next I'll use a little bit of the Westman Atelier powder. Now this is less of a powder than I would use if I'm going to be outside on a really hot day because it doesn't have any cornstarch in it, and more a powder that I use to more set my makeup and to make everything look a little bit more matte and a little bit more pretty. So we'll just put it on just the areas that look shiny to me. And depending on how dry my skin is. In some cases, I don't really need to use any powder at all, but there are some times when I'm not going to be actively sweating that I still feel like that my skin can use a little bit of powder on the top, and I think today is definitely one of those days. And I think this is a very pretty looking powder when I look at myself in this viewfinder. And then I'm going to use a little bit of blush, and this is one of the products that Westman Atelier is most known for. So this is the Baby Cheeks blush stick, and I have the shade Chouchette, which is kind of a peach shade. So you could put it on your fingers and then put it on your face, but I will try putting just a little bit of it right in this area. And I tend to put on blush pretty high on my cheekbones because I feel like this kind of lifts everything up, and is usually what people recommend as you get older, to put the blush a little bit higher than you might have when you were younger. And then I'm still not going to use any mascara, but we'll put on this eye pencil again. It looks like I could use a little bit more eyebrow pencil, so I'll just fill in a little bit more. So I have two shades of the iPods, which are their little cream eyeshadows. So one shade is Tabac that I have, so I will put a little bit of this on my eyes, and I have this brush, which is the Baby Blender brush, I think it's called, so I'm going to use that because that seems to be the best strategy that I've found for putting on this eyeshadow. And then I also have this same eyeshadow in the shade Champagne, which is a kind of a cream color with a little bit of shimmer to it. So I'll try just putting a little bit of this on my eyes as well. And maybe using that as a little bit of highlight on my face too. So finally I have a palette of lip shades. So this is called Les Suede, and then in the shade Les Nude. So these are the four colors that are in here, and you can either swirl them around together, which Gucci Westman admits that she herself does on occasion, or you can try to use them separately. So I will start off by, I think, using that top shade, and I have this little brush, which is the lip brush from Westman Atelier. So let's just see how this darker shade looks on my lips. And then what I might do if I looked in the mirror like this is I think that it might be good if I had a little bit more of a pop of a color on my cheek. So I'm going to pick out another one of the Baby Cheeks blush sticks and use one of those. So this is the shade Bichette, and I'm just going to use this to put a little bit of pop of color more towards this part of my cheeks, and then we'll just kind of blend it in. And if necessary, I'll get that brush back out and blend it in and put on more powder even. See, now I look like I have a little bit more of an apple rosy cheek, doll-like cheek, which is not necessarily a bad thing, especially since it kind of goes with the lip color. And let's just blend this in a little bit. And I think that's enough makeup. So let's talk a little bit about each of these products. The Skin Activator is something that's only been out for about a month or so. So this is Westman Atelier's first skincare product, and it is supposed to be especially helpful for reactive or problematic skin like what Gucci Westman has, and certainly what I have. I think that it's been a nice product so far for me. It has certainly not irritated my skin at all. I've never found that any of the Westman Atelier products have irritated my skin. So I've been really happy about that. It is pretty pricey, whether it's worth it for it to be this much more expensive than a typical hydrator like the $30 one that I use from Honest Beauty, or many other companies have products that are about the same. I'm not sure yet. I haven't used it for long enough, but I do think it has some quality ingredients in it, and I feel good about it. And so, like many serums that are hydrating, I do think that it provides kind of a little bit of a tacky finish on my skin, and that does serve as a good basis for makeup. So while I use things that have more oil in them as night creams for the day, I tend to use either moisturizers or serums that have more sodium hyaluronate in it to keep my skin from feeling dry, but not, so that it's not interfering with my makeup by being too wet. Now this product is actually a refillable, and so you can pull this out of here. You could actually just buy this and just use this. There's absolutely no need, in my opinion, to have the container at all. The container does cost $25 for this. So if you want to save money, you don't have to ever buy it. Or if you want to buy it once, as I did, and then buy the refills, then it's only $125, which is still a lot of money for less than an ounce of a serum. But at least it's a nice one, and I do think that it's been good for me so far. So we'll see how I do with it as I use up the rest of the container. Now this eye pencil, this is new. It just came out a couple of weeks ago. Before that it was in the I Love You kit, which is also available right now on the Violet Grey site and on the Westman Atelier site. So now you can buy this eyeliner pencil individually too. It's available in two colors. The black one is what's in the I Love You kit. I have personally had a hard time finding good eyeliner pencils that I have really liked. So the problem here is that most eyeliner pencils irritate my eyes a lot because usually they have cottonseed oil in them, and cottonseed oil tends to be very highly contaminated with agricultural chemicals, including glyphosate. The other issue with eyeliners, though, is in terms of performance. And I think that for me, what I would really like to see is an eyeliner that I can put on my eyes easily, that goes on smoothly, that I can smudge a little bit at the beginning so that it doesn't look like I have a harsh line, or if I mess up, I can repair it, but then that it will harden down into a permanent line that I need to use some kind of makeup remover or whatever to wash off, so it lasts and it doesn't get all smudged out of place. And there are very few eyeliners that don't irritate my eyes that meet that criteria. There are a few. I especially like the Calorie one, and oddly I really like the Bobbi Brown gel pencil eyeliners from a number of years ago. So just because a product is marked as clean beauty doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be one of my favorites or that it's going to work for me. In this case, I think that this eyeliner hasn't irritated my eyes. It has a great ingredient list in terms of it being clean enough, but it does go on nicely and smoothly, but it doesn't really last. So for instance, if I put it on my hand and I smudge it at the beginning, you see it smudges nicely, but if I wait for another 10 minutes, it'll still smudge quite a bit, and pretty much it'll just disappear. So that's not as good, as far as I'm concerned, as an eyeliner that's going to stay in place. But if you want one that's not going to irritate your eyes, this could be a good bet. I think that the ingredients list is very good, and it at least goes on nicely at the beginning. Now, their foundation stick. I recently did a video where I compared a whole bunch of different expensive concealers and foundation sticks in terms of how they work on my face, in terms of doing spot concealing like I did with this one. And I would say that the main issue that I have with this particular product is that if I use too much of it on areas of my face where there are wrinkles, that it definitely accentuates the wrinkles to an extensive amount. So that's especially the case for me if I use it in this area here where I do have a lot of crow's feet type wrinkles, or if I use it anywhere in my face that has wrinkles, it'll really settle into the wrinkles and make them look worse. And I think that that's because it doesn't have silicones in it. So none of the Westman Atelier products have any silicones in them. And I think that especially for a product like this or for other foundation products, that you do lose something for people that are more mature, because they're not going to have the issue where wrinkles are being made to look better. They're really having their wrinkles potentially being made worse. So if I use this, I try to use it on a spot basis, just on the areas of my face that don't have wrinkles on them. So when I just used it on my cheeks, I think that was okay. And when I used it on the areas around my nose, I think that that's fine. I think it's a very nice formula. I think that my skin likes it a lot. I have the shade Atelier 2, which might be a little bit dark, but I don't think that for using something with spot coverage where I just blend it into my skin, that it's necessarily bad for me to use a product that's a little bit more on the dark side than my skin actually is. And I think that it looked okay in terms of my just putting it on now. But I do feel that I have to be more careful with this than I would with some of the other concealers that I've tried out. So I wouldn't want to use this under my eyes, even as a regular concealer. And I certainly wouldn't want to use it in areas of my skin like here, where I have a lot of wrinkles. So I have to work around the product a lot. But other than that, I think it's a very nice product. So in terms of the blush, these baby cheek blush shades, I think they're available in 7 shades maybe. So the ones that I have right now to demonstrate, at the top we have Petal, then we have Chouchette, then we have one that's called Mimi, which is only available on the Westman Atelier site. Then the one at the bottom is called Doo, and then the one on my wrist is Bichette. So certainly Bichette is quite bright, and the one at the bottom, the Doo one, that's also fairly bright. In general, I think that these blushes, they're very easily blendable. So there's some blush that has a formula that's much more hard. So I'm thinking especially of the Honest blushes or even the Victoria Beckham blushes, and where you need to kind of let them warm up with your skin so that they will blend and that they tend to stay on your face for a long time. These tend to be really easily malleable. They're almost like liquid blush in that I can use any of these colors, and when I actually put them on my skin, they really don't look that bright at all. So even though I put on that Bichette, which is a very bright shade, when I put it on my cheeks, they really don't, it really does not look very bright at all to me now. So I think that that's a good thing in one way if you want a kind of a soft, ethereal look, but it also may be the case that your blush may not last as long, especially if you don't have a foundation or powder on under it. I think there's 2 more shades of this that I don't have and that I haven't tried. One is called, I think it's Minette, which is a kind of shimmery peach color that I would really kind of like to have. And then there's one that's called Pop It, which is supposed to be quite bright, but that a lot of people like a lot for a pop of color. So I'd be interested in that one as well. Now these eyeshadows, they're a little bit odd because they have kind of a putty texture to them. And before I started using this Westman Atelier baby blender brush on it, I found that they were very difficult to apply, either with my fingers or with a conventional eyeshadow brush. But since I've been using this brush, which is flat and pretty dense, and has a round tip that fits really nicely into the container, I feel that they've gone on pretty well. And I do like this shade of this Tabac, which is kind of a brownish shade with a little bit of yellow in it. I think that's a very pretty shade. And I do think that this champagne color that's a little bit shimmery is very pretty as well. So I've been able to get some use out of this since I've gotten this brush, or if you've got another brush that was similar to this in terms of being really squat and dense, you might be able to use it. But I think a lot of people do find these to be very frustrating. Now, in the I Love You kit, they have a totally new set of eyeshadows, and I have been told that those are a considerably different formula, even though I haven't found any evidence that they're using different ingredients. But in terms of the texture, they seem to be much more like powder eyeshadows from what people are saying, and that they tend to be easier to use and that people are liking those better. So I would be interested in trying that. But I'm not sure that I want to buy the I Love You kit, which is available on the Violet Grey site on sale, because I don't know that I want to buy either that mascara or another one of these eye pencils. So what I'm hoping is that maybe some of their regular iPods, when they come out, when they're re-released, that they will have that formula. Now, this lip palette, I think that there's some real pros and cons here. One of the pros is that they have recently been released in refillables. So you can get either this version, or there's a red version called Les Rouges, and you can get refillables for them now. I do really, really like the way that this formula feels on my lips. I think that as all of the products that I have for my lips goes, this pretty much feels like it's the best for my lips in terms of putting my lips in better condition and just feeling nice on them. And I do think it looks kind of elegant, and that when I put this on, it does last for pretty long on my lips. I mean, it's certainly not a lipstick that's going to last all day like a MAC lipstick, but it will last for a while. Now, another thing to know about this is that the Les Nude, which is this more neutral colors, and the Les Rouges, they're using different formulas. So the Les Rouges one actually has cherry oil and marula oil in it, whereas this one has avocado oil and jojoba oil in it. So I feel like maybe I would especially like the Les Rouges formula, because cherry oil and marula oil sounds quite lovely. But this one actually is one of my favorite formulas, even though it doesn't have the really unusual ingredients in it. The things that I'm a little bit hesitant with regard to, especially buying one with the bright red colors, is that I don't know that I would want to put on lipstick with my fingers if it's that bright in color. That seems really messy, and that I would have to find a mirror for it and a place to wash my hands before and after using the product. I do have this lip brush from Westman Atelier, which works really, really well with the palette in terms of just going into one of these strips and getting out just that color like I just did. But this is not a lip brush that I would probably take with me, because there's no lid to it. It's not retractable or anything like that. So that's a little bit unfortunate. I wish that there were a way to make it more travel friendly. In general, I do feel like I prefer a lipstick in a tube rather than in a palette like this. But on the other hand, this is such a nice formula that I do really like it. And I'm kind of intrigued by this new red version, so I might give that a try at some point. And this powder, I think, is available in 5 shades. So there's a translucent version, there's a pink version, there's this version, which is meant for light skin but has a little bit of a tint to it, and then there are a couple of darker shades for darker skin tones. This powder does not have cornstarch in it. I have not found it to be all that oil absorbing, so it's not something that I would want to wear outside on a hot sunny day because it wouldn't really help to absorb any sweat. But I think that for an ordinary day where I'm not going to be sweating, that it does a good job of absorbing a little bit of the oil from my foundation or complexion products and putting a nice little set on top of it. And I think it's a very finely milled product. It feels very nice on my skin. There's a few skincare ingredients in it which I think are seem like at first that they might be unnecessary because it's going way on top of all of your other products. But one thing that it does have in it is a probiotic that is very resistant to being killed by heat, and that I think could be good for the skin conceivably. So I think that even if you're just putting that on top of everything else, that adding a probiotic to the top of the skin could have a benefit to it. And I do feel like this powder is not bad for my skin at all, and my skin does seem to like it. So I think that I'm going to try to get some more use out of it. This color I think is good for reducing redness a little bit and increasing the look of your skin being a little bit more even without it being really obvious. I think translucent powder doesn't really work all that well for me. The pink powder, I think, would be good for someone that has more sallow type skin. So if you're, especially as women get older, sometimes they stop having a lot of obvious blood flow and their skin starts to look kind of yellow. So at that point, if you use a little bit of pink powder on top of it, that may give a little bit of life back to the skin. Jones Road just introduced a pink powder that they're suggesting be used for sallow skin, and that's what I would use this for as well. So before I take off all this makeup and start over with my last look, I thought I'd put on one more thing. So at one point I saw a little video with Gucci Westman where she was trying on various products, and she was talking about how her the middle shade of her contour line is usable for her with her light skin as a bronzer. So the contour line is called the Face Trace Contour Sticks, and so those are available in 3 different shades. One is on the light side, and I will show that to you in a few minutes, but this one in the middle is called Truffle, and it has a little bit of a reddishness to it, so I can see why that it works as a bronzer to give just a little bit of a bronzy, reddish type glow to the skin. So I'll put a little bit of that on right now, and you can see what you think of it. So this is fairly similar in tone to the Brulee, but it's not shimmery, it's a matte. And it can go on very smoothly, so you don't need to use very much of it in order to just give a little bit more of a bronzy glow. So as an option, this is one choice that I think does work for me. On darker skins, this is intended as a contour stick. So those were pretty much no makeup type of looks. And now let's do a look that might be a little bit more made up and see how we do with it. So for this one, I'm going to use their liquid foundation product, which is called a Vital Skin Foundation Drops. So this is an oil-based foundation, and we're just using a very small amount of it. So I will just put maybe 2 drops on my hand to begin with. And then I will try dotting it on my skin and then buffing it in. So I'm really just trying to cover up the redness on my skin like I did with the foundation stick, but not putting too much on it. So now again, I feel like this product has a tendency to exacerbate the wrinkles around my eyes because it doesn't have any silicone in it, and it doesn't have any magic special properties like the Jones Road the foundation that keeps it from doing it. So therefore, I feel like if I put too much of this, especially in the wrinkles around my eyes, that it does tend to make the wrinkles look worse. And I think maybe I could use 1 more drop and still not have it be overboard. I think they usually do suggest 3 drops, and maybe that's a good amount. So this is what it looks like on my hand. So it is a little bit runny, and it definitely has a lot of oil in it. Let's put a little bit on my forehead. And this does tend to look a little shiny if I put too much of it, so to be really careful not to go overboard. And then I'll try buffing that into the skin again with my Jones Road Everything brush. So supposedly this has medium coverage to it, and I think it does give a fair amount of coverage if you need it. I'll try putting a little bit under my eyes just to show you how much coverage it can get. But if I get it into my wrinkle area, then that's when the problems start. And so this product, I feel, really does need to have powder on it, regardless of when I use it. And it really doesn't need any skincare underneath it, so I didn't put anything on. So now I'm going to add a little bit of that same powder again. And we'll just take down the shine all over the face. So now I do feel that my skin has less of a natural and more of like a snatched, perfected type of a look to it. Like it's all sort of one color, which sometimes you want. even if you go for a more natural makeup look, sometimes looking a little bit more polished can be a nice thing. So next I will use the Westman Atelier eyebrow pencil. And this is, I think, just available in 3 or maybe 4 shades. And the one that they make is it comes with this little spoolie in the end. It's just a plain dry spoolie. It doesn't have anything going on with it. And then it's a triangular shaped pencil. So the issue for me with this is that this is pretty much of a dark shade for me. So let's show you what it looks like. So here it is on my hand. So I feel like this shade is a little bit darker than what I usually use as an eyebrow pencil. And it also seems to be pretty highly pigmented in addition to being a dark shade. So it's very easy for me to get eyebrows on that look like they're really overwhelming and that look really fake. And I realize that a lot of people like that kind of tattooed on eyebrows, and that's kind of microblading, and that's kind of popular now, but I don't feel like that looks very natural on me. So even if I use this very, very lightly, I feel like pretty soon it's starting to look like there's more eyebrows than I want. And then, as is the case with almost all eyebrow pencils except for the Jones Road one, I feel like in order to get a natural type look, I need to add eyebrow gel on top of it. So she does not make an eyebrow gel, so I have one by Jane Iredale that I like a lot. In this case, I feel that the Westman Atelier pencil, it's kind of on the reddish side, more red than the brow gel that I put on top of it. So for me, I feel that this brow pencil is not working in a variety of ways. Let's use this shade Mimi. Now this shade Mimi is only available on the Westman Atelier website, and it's kind of a beigey pink color that I think is very nice for me as kind of an understated blush. So I think that's kind of pretty. Now, the product from Westman Atelier that I have never tried yet, and this is my first time ever, so I'm opening this little sample kit, is the contour shade in the shade Biscuit. So this is supposed to be for light skin tones, and it is a shade that's kind of on the grayish side a little bit, or a taupe side, so it's supposed to be more neutral on your skin and to provide a little bit of contour. And usually, or always, I don't really like the whole concept of contour, especially on me, because I don't think that I really need it, and I don't necessarily think that it usually looks that great on other people. I feel like it looks kind of on the fake side. But of the people that I have seen using contour, I feel that Gucci Westman's look when she uses it seems to be nicer than it is for most people. So I think that this is a very mild and easy to use contour. So let's try putting a little bit of it on my cheekbones the way that they instruct and see if we think I look better or worse. So I think what you do for this is you're supposed to suck in your cheeks and then put a small amount of it right underneath your cheekbones and then blend it in. So let's give that a try. Okay, put a little bit on this side. And then I will blend it in with my fingers, I guess. Personally, I don't feel like I look any better with this on. I don't know that I look so bad that I would be afraid to go out of the house, but I don't think it's really helping my appearance personally. But if you're a person that likes contour, then this may be one of the products that you might want to try. Victoria Beckham also has a new line of contour sticks that seem like they might be sort of equally subtle, that are in several different shades. So you might want to try that if you're interested in contouring. But I kind of feel like it's not necessary for me. But what I will do is use a little bit of this as eyeshadow since I have the container open. And you know what? I kind of like it as eyeshadow. I think that's kind of gorgeous. Look how pretty that is. Maybe I will go out and buy one of those $25 sticks. That's nice. And then I'll put a little bit under my chin just because I usually will use a little bit of bronzer there if I have it out. And I think that this works okay, just to kind of minimize the fleshiness that I have in this area. I do like that as eyeshadow. That's very nice. And I think that we will use a little bit of this Doo-Doo shade just to add a little bit more color to my cheeks. So I'll put just a little dot of it here and then try to blend it in. And again, what I would suggest with these blush sticks is that they're probably not going to last very long. So what you might want to do is either put them on over foundation, or if you're not wearing a lot of foundation, and I'm not even sure if I'm wearing enough, you might want to put a primer down under them if you want them to last longer. Or you might want to put them on and then wait a little bit and then take another look, because my face seems to eat blush like this pretty easily. But they certainly are pretty, so I certainly like them a lot. And then, as I said, I often don't use mascara, but I do have this one little sample of Westman Atelier. So I've used a sample of theirs before in the past, and I don't feel that it was irritating to my eyes at all, so that was good. But I do feel like my experience with this was that it tended to be kind of on the messy side. And that seems to be what other people are reporting, in addition to my own experience with the sample size in the past. So I'm going to try to put a little bit of this on. So I do feel that with the mascaras that I really like, usually I only have to swipe them once or twice. In this case, I feel that I'm having to be very, very careful and wipe off all the excess, and then be really careful not to put on too much. And this is actually seeming to go on okay. This is a really expensive mascara, like $58 or something. So that's why I haven't actually purchased it yet. And I feel like it's a little fussier today than the kind of mascara that I usually like. But it seems to also be behaving a little better. And I'm going to take this little Westman Atelier spoolie and just kind of brush it a little bit to keep it from sticking together. I would say that after this, it's better than I recall, so that's good, but I'm still not really inclined to go run out and spend $58 on it. But if you want a mascara that's not going to cause any irritation, maybe this would be a good one for you. So let's put on a little bit of this Nectar highlighter. This is the stick that got all melted, but that does not seem to be keeping me from using it. And I think that this shade is particularly nice on me. Now there is one more shade that I haven't purchased yet, and that one is kind of oyster type of a color that I would like to try, but so far it's only available in the large size. And then I'll show you this lip gloss. So this is the Nana color, so I'll show you what it looks like. I think that it really looks like I'm not wearing anything but clear lip gloss. And then I'll also try the Puce, which is kind of a raspberry color, just to see if I can give my lips a little bit more color. So I will say for this product that probably I think that it's going to be much better for dry skin than it is for people that have younger skin and oily skin. Gucci Westman does have dry skin, to my understanding, and these products are in large part made for herself and for her own celebrity friends who are in their 40s and 50s or beyond. And so I think that this product is especially appropriate for people who have dry skin, as long as you can figure out a way to keep it out of your wrinkly areas. And in this product, I have the shade Atelier 2, and I think it was okay on my skin. I think that by all rights, I probably should be more like Atelier 1, or maybe even in when my skin is at its most pale, Atelier 0.5, but I think that this one's fine, and I think there is some flexibility into it, especially if you're able to buff it into your skin. A lot of people really do like this eyebrow pencil a lot. I think that it's looking better on me today than it usually is because I tried to be so light-handed with it. But in general, I think that it probably works a lot better for people that have more eyebrows than I do and that are just using it to fill in rather than to actually simulate a natural-looking eyebrow area. I do think these pencils run dark. So the woman that I talked to, who was a makeup artist from Westman Atelier, she said that actually for her, that the color that she originally thought would be good for her turned out to be too dark. So she ended up going to a lighter shade. So you may want to keep that in mind. Now the contour sticks, I think that these are usually considered to be very good products, and I think that they go on so sheer that I think that they're very nice. I think that the Biscuit one worked really nicely on my eyes today, and I'll try a little bit of this one and the darker color on my eyes. We can see what that looks like, and I think that that's actually also really pretty. So even though Westman Atelier doesn't make an eyeshadow that I have been entirely happy with so far, I think that these are pretty nice and as work on as a casual eyeshadow enhancement. And I think that if you want to use some kind of a contour on your face, that this one may work really well for you. I'm just not much of a contour person, and I don't think that contour is something that we all need to be doing necessarily. Especially as we get older, people tend to need less contour because their face has less fat on it anyway. But if you're a younger person or you like contouring, then these could be a really good product for you. I think I'll finish up by putting a little bit of this Petal on my cheeks. I haven't done that yet. This actually seems to be her most popular blush shade, so we'll see what it looks like on me. And I can see why people would like this. I wouldn't mind having some of this product. It's just kind of natural looking on probably a variety of skin tones. A little bright, but you know what? In 5 seconds, it'll sink down into my skin and you won't be able to notice it nearly as much. Well, let's also talk a little bit about their brushes to wrap up. I only have 3 of their brushes so far, and I do like all of their brushes. They are made by a famous Japanese brush maker who has been in the past only making brushes with animal fibers, and so she persuaded them to use synthetic fibers, and these are very high quality brushes. I would agree with that. And I'd like to have some of her other brushes, but they are pretty pricey. I feel that the Lisa Eldridge brushes, they're also made in Japan, and I feel that the 2 that I have so far have been pretty much exactly the same as the Westman Atelier ones. I don't know if I like the Lisa Eldridge ones more, but I at least like them as much. And I also have been liking the Jones Road brushes. So after all of this, what I guess I would like to say is that despite the fact that there are things that I find wrong with some of these formulas, and even though in terms of comparing them to high performance makeup that they may not come in objectively as the best, I think that it is very hard for me to get anything other than a super pretty look with this makeup. I think I always look better after I put it on. I think I look kind of natural and softer, and it kind of gives my face just this kind of relaxed, comfortable type of a vibe that you can try to get from other makeup as well, and that you might be able to succeed with, but that it's a lot easier to do it with this one. It just kind of all seems to blend together and look very, very pretty. And I don't think that's by accident. I think that's the kind of makeup look that Gucci Westman is known for giving to her celebrity clients, and I think that she has managed to do that with this makeup line as well. So if that's what you're looking for, then this could be a really good line for you, and especially if you're in your 50s or beyond, I think this is a really, really flattering look. So if you have tried any Westman Atelier products, then please let me know in the comments what you think of them. In addition, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, then please go ahead and do that. Thanks very much for watching all the way to the end of the video. And Coco and I love you very much. Goodbye.